Okay, hello. My name is Dan, and I am going to attempt to build a furnace. I've been watching a lot of videos from Veg Oil Guy, VOG, Grant Thompson and others. There's many guys out there at the minute who are producing some pretty decent furnaces, and as a good friend Justin would tell you, I like setting things on fire. So, my opportunity to set things on fire has arrived. Let's go through everything I have got. I've been trying to do this on a budget, so this is going to be a coal-fired furnace. I'm going to pump some air into it mainly. I looked at doing some gas furnaces and others, however the burners and alike, unless you were making it yourself, were costing some serious money. So being a dad of one and second on the way, my cash flow isn't what I would like to start throwing serious money at, well, building a furnace. If I was going to be buying a gas burner, etc., I would probably end up just biting the bullet and going to buy a Devil's Forge, as recommended by many people, and their prices actually are quite reasonable when you consider they include everything in it. So let's go through what we've got. So I was nicely donated this giant vegetable oil from my takeaway up in Lincoln, and I'll be getting another one of these turned into a barbecue in the future. Now, I'm hoping the material is going to be strong enough. I've got myself some nice 1600 degree refractory cement, castable, so hopefully that'll fit in there nicely. My central crevice will be approximately a Dulux paint tin size in the middle. It should fit nicely, about 2 inches of refractory around the whole edges. I'll have a nice 2-inch section at the bottom. I've measured the tape up already. This will be angle ground away in a moment, but yes, so 11.5 inches gave me 2 inches at the bottom, a little bit extra on the top, and then obviously I will cast up the top as well as a nice lid. So I've got myself a nice steel rebar, a steel pipe tube. That's going to be for 1 air inlet and 2. I've got the steel rebar mainly because, well, I could. But when I'm going to be looking at formulating the lid, where it's going to go, positioning, and I'll probably have the rebar around a side somewhere just to assist with lifting, so my arm is not getting over what could be anything up to, well, 1600 degrees if the refractory is true. Although I'm unsure whether that's going to be attainable in a vegetable oil tin and with a bit of airflow. So any luck. What have I got to go inside? So along with the refractory, as recommended by many, I've got myself a nice kilogram of steel wool here, grade 3. No idea if the grade makes a difference, but we'll find out. Essentially that's just going to give us a bit of rigidity. I was thinking of putting in some chicken wire around and inside once the paint pot was in there, just to sink it in and give it a bit more structural reinforcement, but I decided against that in the end because I felt like I was putting in too much stuff within the refractory itself, maybe causing air holes and more. We can only hope that this is going to go well together. So I've got myself some heat resistant paint. Not that I'm too fussed about its heat resistance capability. Once I cut this open, I don't exactly have any degreasing agents, so I'll be cleaning it out as best I can. I mean, I found some of my old big wipes over here. They might do a good job. So we'll clean that out as best we can. We'll get the barbecue paint on there and let that dry. Hopefully we won't have too much oil, any other contaminants inside at that point. And we'll have a relatively good starting point, at which point I'll pile the steel wool over the edges, we'll get the refractory in there, and yeah, we'll go from there. First things first, I'm going to cut the top off. I've got a nice little new angle grinder over in the corner, which I should have got ages ago. What I do have is this perforated iron, or perforated steel sheet, which will be cut down. This will probably become a grill on a barbecue as well, and another one, so I'll cut it down there for the barbecue. But for this, I'm going to build a small stand. It's about the right size. Got some steel kicking around, maybe wood, just to give it something to sit on off the ground that can be portable outside, inside. I can do it in the edge of the garage over here. Not entirely certain how hot the gas flow is going to be once it's ignited, when it's really giving it some full temperature, when I'm really looking at smelting copper, gold, nickel and so on. So I don't particularly want this to be inside when I'm using it at its working temperature, because I've only got plasterboard up here and I don't particularly want to be burning a hole in my ceiling. As much as I like fire, as much as I like burning things, I'd rather not burn my house down. So, refractory. Probably won't get to the refractory today, but I did notice some warning labels on there. So I've got my gloves, I've got my mask, I've got my goggles. Oh, I haven't got goggles, but I've got glasses. Nevertheless, we will make progress with that at some point. And yeah, let's start cutting this thing away. Right, what am I going to go from? Okay, I've got my mask on, I've got my gloves on, I've got my ear defenders as well in this nice enclosed space. I don't want to blow my eardrums out. I'm only 30, I don't want to be losing my hearing just yet. And yeah, we're going to crack away with this hemp grinding. Hopefully I don't burn my arms with some sparks, but it should go through this like toffee. So let's see where we go. That was a little bit hotter than I anticipated. I think I might wear a long sleeve t-shirt next time, maybe the welding gloves, who knows. Threw off a few more sparks than normal, but nevertheless, so we've now got our tin. Should be good. Wasn't the straightest cut ever. This is just absolutely drenched in oil. I thought I did a better job of cleaning this up earlier. It's probably mostly water, but I guess we'll tidy that up in a minute. Right, okay, so cut around in between the lines the whole way. It's obviously not the best edges. I'll clean that up, clean it up, file it off, get it nice and just not deform the shape of the can just yet. Okay, yeah, clean it up, dry it up, and we'll get ready for insertion on some refractory, and hopefully we'll get that done right. What I really wanted to do was get some fire bricks or insulation bricks, stick them down in the bottom just to pad it out a little bit, use a little bit less refractory, but you wouldn't believe how difficult it is to get your hands on those, especially in the current climate of today's world. Deliveries being what they are, people are wanting mass pallet orders to build a kiln, and I've not got anywhere local where I can go and pick this stuff up, so the delivery cost on just a handful of bricks is an absolute nightmare. So we won't be doing that. What we will be doing is cleaning this up, doing the best we can, filling a little bit with some steel wool, and then moving on to the refractory. That's rubbish. Alright, top edge cleaned up. There'll be a few finishing touches on it before we do any refractory, but nevertheless, let's get to degreasing. Oh, lovely puddles of oil. Yes, the flexibility of this metal's not giving me too much hope. I might go and have a conversation with my local bar and see if they're willing to give me a keg, but I highly doubt they just throw those things away. But a keg would make an awesome furnace, I reckon. Okay, we're not bad, we're getting there, Just a little bit more. I initially planned on just chucking some sand in here, letting it soak everything up for a few days, pour it out, and then get some nice degreasing wipes in with it. Big wipes with a hint of aloe vera, why not? Okay. Not bad. Yes. So my main purpose for this furnace is going to be smelting the likes of copper, aluminium, really for the most part low temperature metals. I've gone for the 1600 degree refractory basically as a just in case. If I can get it to set nice, hold together in one piece, it should last a fair bit longer. And who knows, one day maybe I'll adjust this, stick in a couple of gas burners in this small area and try and get the thing to melt some iron, steel, stainless. It'd be good to get some stainless done because I've got a myriad of cheap knives and forks that don't need any more. Get rid of them. But for now, we'll get some aluminium, and you never know, I'll see what the temperature ratings I can get this to for nickel. Get some coins cast for our community, get some, maybe we'll dabble around with a little bit of jewellery, but nothing too excessive. Justin, my partner in crime, let's say, for these sorts of projects, he has himself a nice, I believe it's called an Mars 3D printer. He's got a few 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC machines, all the good stuff. And he will be producing, with any luck, some castable resin for us to attempt. So I just need to get my hands on some investment plaster. And you know, with any luck, this doesn't blow up in my face and set my whole house on fire and cause untold thousands of pounds of damage. And if, you know, if it works, we might actually be able to start doing some of these cool projects, which would be awesome, super awesome. What I should have done is turn this upside down and use the other side, because I'll be taking this handle off. This hole is completely pointless. I need a can size hole in the middle. So there, probably stick a bit of foil, plug that up somehow on the refractory. When poured into the tin, will sit nicely, and we'll take a centre out. I've got myself a couple of tins. I mean, just needs to be that big. I've got a couple of old baby feed tins here, which probably be the nice open size. Probably a bit too big. Maybe I'll get a tin of beans or something. Might fit that a bit better, but nevertheless, either or will do the job. Some barbecue paint inside. I believe I'm just touching it up for a little bit of aesthetics. Well, it's not even going to be a little bit of aesthetics. It's mainly just to stop it from rusting, from all the heat, expansion, traction, getting everything in the grooves. With any luck, this will help protect that, even with the refractory. Let's try not to intoxicate myself in my own garage. Not that it would do any major damage, but let's be safe. time. Nice one either. Give me some gloves. Right. Right, before I sign off on this one and allow this paint to dry, I'm hoping that everybody could hear what I was saying in the mask. Nevertheless, not everyone's going to wear masks when they're spray painting things. Not everyone's going to wear gloves when they're spray painting things. However, in my day-to-day work, I'm exposed to some pretty nasty stuff on a semi-regular / daily basis. Oils, lubricants, petrols, petroleums, all the good stuff. So I try to adhere to these safety principles as often as I can. Well, 100% at work, but definitely at home. So gloves and masks. I mean, the fumes in here are not it's not the most ventilated area, so the mask does a job. I mean, I can still smell the paint now, but I am right next to the garage door, so I'm not too concerned about the stagnating fumes. And yeah, I highly advise, if you've got some gloves kicking around, use them. If you've got a mask kicking around, use it. In the middle of COVID and everything that's going on in the world, everyone should have their hands on a mask. Everyone should be, well, most of the people should be wearing gloves. So it's not going to be too hard to source these items, even in their most basic form. And I would highly, highly recommend this. Okay, boys and girls, we are now dry. I've left it overnight just to ensure that it was dry. The edges need still a bit of cleaning up, but we'll get around to that later. So what I've done is marked 2.5 inches up, or 2 inches up, and a little bit more for my pipe diameter, around an inch, a little bit less. I have the perfect hole cutting tool to fit in said hole. However, I do not have the adapter. I cannot find it anywhere, so I'm going to have to either spend a few hours looking for that, or I will simply use a mini grinding disc on the Dremel. Thank you, little sister, for that Christmas present that I haven't used yet. I'm about to use it, and then I'll fill the whole thing. So I've got my nice base of refractory. I've noticed a problem with my paint pot, and that is that the paint is still half full, and it's good paint, and it's the only pot of this size I have. So I can't be cutting a hole in that to slide the pole through. So I'll be sliding the pole through, plastering it up the best I can, and hopefully I can withdraw the paint pot as it's hardening but not quite set perfectly, and I can just push the pole the rest of the way through without disintegrating everything that's inside. What I don't have is any sort of vibration materials to bring the air out. The problem I've got with the refractory is it hasn't come with any instructions. It's not giving me any mixing proportions, so I'm basically going to have to do that by eye. What it has done is give me a little bit of a warning label. That's about it. So we'll mix that to the best of our ability, hope for the best. I'll probably leave it a lot longer than I would normally leave any other type of refractory that came with instructions, just to make sure that it is setting and it's going to do its job properly. Then we'll set a few fires inside, burn out any remaining moisture and all the good stuff. What I will do is remove my camera and take it down here. So this is our bag of refractory. It is Procast 1600, and this is my little warning label: harmful, may cause damage to lungs through inhalation, do not breathe dust, blah blah blah, irritable, and all the goods. So that's pretty much all the instructions I've got with this refractory, and considering I've never used it before, I think I will abide by those warnings, and the fact that I'm going to have to do it by eye. I will glove up, mask up, goggle up, all the good stuff, and hope for the best. Right, so I'm going to cut my way through this little vegetable oil any which way that I can, and see where we go from there. What I will show you before I move on is my bastardized mixing machine. So a little bit of strong tape, duct tape, whatever it is, speed tape, repurposed camping chair pole, definitely does the job, and as you can hear, it vibrates quite nicely. So hopefully that'll help do the job. If not, I'll have to get in there by hand and try and manipulate it, perhaps even get one of my flat sanders, such as this one, which is nicely prepared. I could bolt this in my vise, sit the barrel on top and let it vibrate everything inside if the stick doesn't seem to be working. So we'll go from there, we'll make things up. I'm using everything I can find around the house and the garage, with the exception of the items I've had to physically purchase to do the job. I've not gone out of my way to get anything extra. Obviously the steel bars I could have found in the garden, could have took the barbecue apart, However, I've got a couple of the projects in mind that I need some of that stuff for. Realistically, tooling, etc. It's just what I've got in the garage. So you will see a lot of tools being used for purposes that they probably shouldn't be used for. That seems to be what I'm good at. So I'm just going to get myself kitted out, and I'm going to cut this little hole, hopefully somewhat nicely. Bad. That's quite right. I'll plug that up with some dough. Okay, in the process of cutting down said pipe to insert at an angle through our what will be furnace. Note to self, do not over tighten your hacksaw blade. Brand new hacksaw, first time using it, over tightened it at the adjustment, got maybe just about through the first layer of the steel, and snap. So angle grinder time it is. Shame, I wanted to keep it a very nice flush cut, but it's not the end of the world. I have other things. Unfortunately, I don't have other hacksaw blades right now, and I'm not about to rush out to get a hacksaw blade just for this project. So I shall see you after I have finished this cut. Okay, next stage. We have cling films up the end. I might put a bit of sellotape over that as well, just before we move on, just to give it a bit more resistance if it turns out it's not that great. I've got some blue tack here, and I'll try and fill around the edges. Could use some of the kids' Play-Doh, but I don't really want to ruin his Play-Doh. What I'll do is find the right angle here in line with the what will be the inside wall of here. So, and then I'll have to tack it down. So let's get this squishy. It'll get bounced around like there's no tomorrow. So, pipe inserted. Obviously that now means I'm going to have to do roofing up here. Good thing about the pipe is that's going to give me my 2-inch measurement for the bottom layer. It will go well, a couple of mil below the entry of the pipe. I feel like I might cut some grooves into the refractory to help the airflow spiral. We'll see. I don't particularly want to be taking any of it out, but we'll see. We'll get a nice 2-inch base up. Leave that a good finger off the pipe, and that should give me a good solid base. What I'll do is I'll then leave that for a while. I'll have a smaller test pot which I'll leave a really small amount of refractory in there, so once it begins to get a bit solid a bit quicker, I will then place the pot in and ensure that it can support the weight of the pot. I don't want it to fully dry before I put in the rest. This is one of the reasons I wanted the insulation bricks or the fire bricks, so I could specifically have the pot in straight away, just fill it all up, pot goes in, sits on the insulation bricks, no issues. However, I couldn't get my hands on the insulation bricks, although it does seem that they're going to turn up in the next couple of days. I don't want to wait, I want to crack on.
Go, hopefully you can hear me. And we've got our bucket ready for the refractory mix. And we have a bucket of water ready for the refractory mix. And we have the refractory mix. Okay. This is where we start. and hope for the best. Let's make sure you can see what I'm doing here, give or take. So as stated, this is one of the only things I will definitely mask and glove stuff up for. No noise required. Don't particularly want to get asthma or any other sort of nasties from this stuff. It will be good. Plastic bag, 25 kg, hoping it will do the job. If it doesn't, it's going to be a lot of money getting another bag. To be fair, there's a lot of dust picking out here, so it's probably a good job to wear the mask. Once I've done this, I might put all of this into a sealable bucket or tub, because every time this bag moves it's just kicking out even more and more. So I'll probably end up making a little bit too much, but there's only one way to find out, isn't there? I have absolutely no idea the ratio, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water, a little bit at a time. Yeah, hello ice cream van. It is a very loud ice cream van. Right, let's see. What I'll do is I'll end up putting a little bit in here as well, keeping this on the side so I keep coming in, poking it and see how well it's set, ready to add some weight onto the final product. So let's see how this goes. I do believe I don't want a runny consistency or anything too moist. I do have that vibration stick for the sides if it's needed, but I think if I can keep it like a little bit like if you're a fisherman and you're doing a bit of method feeding, you can squish your bait ball so it sticks to the hook. When you throw it, it stays and crumbles away when it gets in. That's kind of the consistency I'm going for here. Fishing bait. Now if that's not a damn wild guess, I don't know what is. So what I'll need to do is find something nice and flat. So pound this down in the bottom. Yeah. There we go. Don't want it to be all cracked at the bottom. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be enough. There's that. A lot of people put additives into refractory, little metal splines, screws, nails, some extras, and I've looked into it a little bit, but to be honest, don't know what I'm doing well enough to know if adding a bunch of 1-inch iron nails is really going to make enough of a difference. Providing it's not going to lose its structural properties, I'm not really too fussed about it taking a week to set. However, yeah, that's not too bad. A little bit wet. Yeah, that's doing alright. So we've got solid consistency. It's a little bit runny, but I will compact it down when it's in there. Get it nice and solid. Give it a push. Yeah, no. But this looks alright. This looks alright. As I said, no instructions, trial and error. Let's do it by eye. So let's do it by eye. Of course. Oh, that was silly. So the pot I wanted to put a tester in, I forgot to empty the bloody water out of it. So that's not going to happen. Great. Fortunately, it was only a tiny bit of water. see what we've got here. So a little bit lower. We've got it's about an inch. To be fair, it looks quite good. So I might just leave it at that level. Remember, I am going to be building a stand for this. So it's going to have perforated iron underneath. So it's not going to be on the floor. The heat transfusion isn't going to happen through like surface exchange. It should have a nice like barrier of air underneath the stand. So not too concerned about that insulation or burning anything, so maybe I don't need the 2 inches, and to be fair, having a bit of gap probably will encourage the airflow anyway. We'll see how it goes. So I'll have to find something in this garage of random things to give this some good force down, get rid of any air gaps, make it flat and level at the bottom. So my workbench has been built, you know, fully spirit leveled, so it should be for the most part flat surfaces. A very slight tilt to the rear, but not enough that it would cause any issues with my building. Okay, that's not too bad. That's actually really quite decent. But I feel like if I pat this down enough, we might get to a point where it might immediately be able to support the weight of said paint tin. So I'll turn you off for a minute while I go and look for something to beat this down with.
Okay, so in the end I ended up using a block of wood, face down obviously, and a sledgehammer, just tapping on the back of it. They're going to be a nice flat finish all around. You can see the hole has a bit of clearance. So what I'll do now is actually sustaining this paint pot quite well. Yeah, that's all the way around. Keep the handle up, just tuck that back in there. So we've got a nice, well, it looks about a 2 inch gap all the way around. Now my concern is that the refractory won't fill this up. So I might go grab a bit of play sand that I might add dish to it. But yeah, do you know what, it should do. We've got most of that 25 kg bag left. I mean, it's probably in about 3 kg in there at the most. So I shall mix up the next batch. I think we'll just go that straight in. But what I'll do is, of course, we will add our steel wool that's hidden away, and then we will go for it. Alright, so we've got a slither of our steel wool here. It's not really much. What I'm going to do is peel it open somewhat. Get nice gaps in there so it can all fall in. The sides will be somewhat more liquidated than the base, so it fits in, and then we'll go through from there. So we'll pop this down in here, all the way to the bottom. I'll go to the side because I've left the pipe out. And this over. Bit of restriction there. Let's use a bit of tape. Doesn't need to be great tape, just needs to hold it in place so when we pour it in we're not going to have any major dislodging incidents. Don't need to pour in. Okay, right, so I'm going to place the pipe back in, then I'm going to completely surround this in our steel wool, and then we'll go for the mixing. Next stage, so steel wool all around, a little bit of fine tuning required. Plenty of paste, there's plenty of space for the pot. Our tube, as you can see, the edge of it is going in line with the edge of the circle, so as I push that through more, it will protrude into where the central crevice will be. Put the paint pot in here now, and then I'll mix up a much more watery solution than what we've got down at the bottom. And yeah, hope for the best. And when we set this on fire, let's hope it doesn't blow up. Or, you know, if it blows up, let's hope it blows up spectacularly. Right, so when you decide, ad hoc, that the base level that you've poured is actually going to be adequate, don't forget that you originally measured everything for an internal pot, which is now no longer tall enough to reach the rim of my tin. So fortunately I have another bucket here which is full of shot blasting beads, which I've barely used, which is about the same size as the paint tin, so with any luck, as it piles up, it will go into, it won't go in and it will stay on the edges. And yeah, hopefully I don't need to cut out little bits of sections, but I imagine there's going to be a little bit of finishing work required on this once it's all been poured in. I'm going to mix all the refractory now, and I'll do that off camera because it's going to take ages. I'll mix it all up, but once I've poured it in, I will get back on record so that we can see the consistency of the material, whether or not I need to use the vibrating tube to try and draw out any air in there, even if I just whack it on the outside. But you know, we'll get in there, we'll do what we can. It's going to be a lot more watery than prior. I'm going to leave it maybe an hour or so just for the base to get a bit of drying air through, so that when I put this next level on, it's not going to go through into the base and therefore weaken that material while we've got all this weight on top. If it does, and we end up with a bit of a bucket shaped dent in the bottom, won't be the end of the world, because I am now getting my insulation slash fire bricks come through. So all I'll do is cut those down to size and put them dead center for the crucible to sit on. Things can be fixed if they're messed up. Well, again, that's providing it doesn't blow up. I'm starting to hope a little bit that it does blow up, but I'd rather use it for its intended purpose. So let's get mixing. This was fun. This is a lot harder than everybody online makes it seem. or I have just no idea what I'm doing. So the pipe's held firm, nice and tight. It's messy. I don't mind the mess. I'm actually thinking of leaving all of the debris around the edges, and then I'll paint it later and it might give it a nice textured effect. I've got a very slight bump up. So we've got the bucket and the paint tin in there. Once this dries up, hopefully tonight, maybe tomorrow, I'll pull the first one. Obviously I'll touch it. It's quite sodden at the minute. It wasn't this wet, however I used the sticks with the sanding machine all the way around the edges, and it just drew all the moisture up, and it did sink down somewhat, so it has done its job. I did initially put it down inside, it wasn't really doing much. And here's the lid. Nicely done. Got a ridge around the edge to keep it off the floor when I put it down. Obviously this pot will come out and I'll get a hole through the top. And either this or this will have to be adjusted slightly for a nice fit, and we'll go from there. So let's leave this for a long time to dry. Thank you very much. Catch you in a bit. Here we go. And a little bit of complacency is going to kick me in the bum, because this has set much quicker than I anticipated. So we had a little family outing, and then my boy took a little bit longer to get down than I anticipated when I took him to bed. I ended up falling asleep with him, which is a shame. Well, it was lovely, let's not lie. However, it means I've come back to pretty much solid concrete, which I was not anticipating, due to it being slightly more sodden than I would particularly liked when I was setting this up to start with. I did think it was going to take a couple of days, or at least a day, but this is rock hard. And I'm talking, oh, what's the time now? I'm not entirely certain, but I think we're looking at around 5 or 6 hours, really, at the most. And this is absolutely rock solid. So I'm going to go around. I mean, it's got a little bit of flex in there. I'll go around and give it a podge. Now the problem we've got is, once I remove this, which I don't think is going to be too much of a bother, the paint tin underneath is slightly ridged. So this pot is probably sat, well, you'd say about this far in on the paint tin. So all the way around this ridge there's going to be this, which I was hoping to get this out before it's solidified, maybe smooth it in, pull it out. So this might actually be a nightmare. As I mentioned earlier on, that there is still paint in the paint pot. This is one of the reasons I didn't drill a hole through for this tube. Now I'm kind of wishing I'd emptied the paint and just took the hit and put the tube through, because I could just tear the paint pot out. It looks like I'm going to have to tear the paint pot out regardless. So first course of action will be, well, let's see how badly it's buried, and then if it is super buried, I'm going to have to tear the top of the tin off and pour this paint out, so we're going to have a nice green interior to this furnace for a while, and we'll go from there. So wish me luck. I don't think I'm going to have much of a choice here. As you can see, this edge, I'm taking it off, is still only revealing the lid. There's still a good 2 or 3 mil all around to get to the actual tin itself. On the positive side, it's going to take so long, it's going to give the refractory plenty of time to fully cure. So I will endeavour to chip all the way around, get my lid free, and then I will have to tear the tin out. Oh, the shame, the shame. I mean, fortunately this paint was is masonry paint for what I've painted the bricks in the garage. So, as you might see in the video, the walls are this very odd, very nice shape of green, which I quite like it. It was yeah, it was a nice choice. I will continue with this, not going to bore you, and let's hope the next time I turn this camera on we've got a little bit more progress. Got a few air bubbles as we're going round. I'll dig into these, see if they're alright, but I'm more concerned about what's down at the bottom. If there's a couple of splits here, if I need to chip any of the cement away or the refractory away, then I will do. I'll put grooves in if I have to. It's not the end of the world. The lid is setting really nicely. It's not got much unevenness, or it's definitely a nice, it is better set on the top than this is anyway. So worst case scenario, I need to take a little bit off to bring it down, and then the lid will sit a bit nicer on it anyway. So we'll go from there. Wish me luck.